Blog Talk Radio.
The White House Report.
According to reports, the White House is livid with Stephen King, representative from Iowa. Representative King said, "What if we went back through all the family trees and just pulled out anyone who was a product of rape or incest? Would there be any population of the world left if we do that?" Well, the White House is said to be very upset. President Trump considers it, according to sources, a distraction. Meanwhile, we hear that evangelicals are very upset as well. This is something that could actually encumber the Republican Party when it comes to the president's reelection bid, especially as the president is not doing so well in the state of Iowa. Meanwhile, Iowa Representative Stephen King is also up for re-election. It's going to be a hard-fought one. April Ryan, AURN News.
Hey, good evening, and welcome to another edition of the Batchelor Pad, the Batchelor News Radio Network. I'm LA Batchelor. Glad you can join us this evening. If you want to reach out to us, you can call 646-929-0130. Press 1 to get on the line, and we'll see you there. We'll get you on. Comments, questions, you can hit us up on Pad Nation at Facebook and at Twitter at Pad Nation 2, the Pad Nation number 2 at Twitter. You can also watch the show on Facebook Live very shortly. I want to bring in my first guest. He's a criminal justice expert. Had him on before to talk about not only the mass shootings, but some solutions, if possible, to gun control, gun violence. He is Patrick Fitzgibbons. And Patrick, good to have you on again, my friend.
Hey, LA, thanks for having me on, brother.
Good, man. So the last time we had you on, we were talking about a lot of the shootings, some of the incidents, the reasons why, and others. I want to focus in on the gun part. But before that, can you give us a visual understanding of the carnage that happens being in law enforcement of those assault weapons that, you know, generally people use, military people use in war, as opposed to people on the streets that get their hands on it, or people who have their hands on it legally?
Mm-hmm. Well, I can't imagine. You know, I've never been in one of those situations. I've been in situations like that after the fact, but never been in those types of situations. And, you know, chaos. I mean, hysteria, fear, panic. Every one of the adjectives I just said and more are going through people's minds when something like this happens. And we talked about it before, LA. And the frightening thing is it's becoming more prevalent, it seems.
So do we go overboard when you hear, or actually just to get your opinion, when you hear of churches and movie theaters, and you may see armed people at nightclubs? We saw the shooting. We found out that the shooter there was on all kinds of drugs, not mental, but he was certainly chemically under the influence of cocaine and all this other stuff the report says today. But are we going too far in terms of safety and trying to live our lives if we have weapons to secure in, say, churches and synagogues and libraries and places like that? Are we going too far?
Look, I think you have to live your life. I mean, that's what people want. Some people want. They want to terrorize people to get them to stay indoors and never come out. But you have to live your life. Now, I think we can do things to mitigate certain areas. Soft targets is what we call them, like synagogues and churches and, movie theaters, like you indicated, LA. I mean, it's a sad reality, but that's where we are at in the United States now, in this country. So, like I said, we can mitigate. We can hire security. We can hire off-duty police officers to be in these places to kind of, God forbid, stop a threat should it occur. But you got to live your life, man. You can't live it in fear.
So what do you do? What are some of the signs that we talked about? People reporting, unusual, activities, unusual sort of, personalities and characters and things of that nature with some people. But again, this guy seemed normal in Dayton. He just kind of went back and forth. He went in the club, he left the club, but he was actually extremely high. So what are some, not only the signs, but some of the preventative measures we can take to protect ourselves?
Well, I mean, I first of all have a plan. I mean, we talked about the signs before, but anytime I go into a place, LA, and I'm sure some of your listeners do too, and this is just how I was trained and how I was taught throughout the years in the military and law enforcement, but any layperson can do it. So when you go into a place, a venue, a nightclub, whatever, I mean, just take a second or two and say, all right, those are the exits. If you know what hits the fan, that's where I'm going. Evacuate, regardless of whether, others agree to follow a certain person. So don't sit there and, take time. I mean, if you know what hits the fan, get out. Leave your belongings behind, if they're away from you. Those are just a couple tips, I mean, like I said, be cognizant. We talked about this before, man. Get your head out of your phone. Notice the people around you. I like to go with your gut. If something feels weird, it probably is. So, this stuff isn't complicated. I mean, it's just, we live in the society right now, man, where you just have to be more cognizant. You have to be aware of your surroundings. Have an escape plan. Have a plan. That's what first and foremost, like I said, I mean, I go over it with my family. Okay, if something like this happens, now some people might call me paranoid, but we have a plan. And I would advise the listeners to have a plan too, wherever they're at.
Talking with Patrick Fitzgibbons here on the Batchelor News radio show. And Patrick, what if you're stuck in the midst of a shooter and you can't get out? It seems like the bullets around. I listened to a lot of people said that they were running one way because they heard the bullets behind them, so they naturally went the opposite way. So what do you do? Especially with your military background and skills, how do you kind of combat that? Do you try to fight your way through it, or do you wait for help? What would you do?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't advise anybody to. That should be your last option. The last option should be, take action against the shooter. If you, throwing whatever, using improvised weapons. I mean, hell, grab a goddamn fire extinguisher off the wall and wait till somebody comes in the room. If you can surprise the shooter or shooters, I mean, that should be the last thing you do. But you have a better chance of survival if you try to take down the shooter rather if you're just sitting there. But things that you can do to mitigate it, if you're caught in an active shooter situation, is be out of the active shooter's view. That's first and foremost. Provide, get protection. There's a difference between cover and concealment. I think we talked about it before. Cover is something that's going to block bullets. Concealment isn't. Think of a bush. That's concealment. It's not cover. Bullets go right through. So, don't trap yourself into an area where you're restricted for movement. I mean, those are just a couple suggestions, but like we talked about, if you have to confront the shooter, do so hopefully with other people and agree that you're going to try to take them down. You have a better chance of survival, or her down, but most of them are men, if not all of them.
Is there a difference in terms of these mass shootings because the person may be ill, or mass shootings because the person lost their job, or mass shootings because there's a hate crime? They go into a synagogue and want to kill Jews or kill blacks or kill Mexicans, whatever. Is there differences there in terms of the signs that we may see, especially again with your background? Would you say there's some differences in terms of looking for some of the signs, especially if law enforcement has to get involved?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that there's signs, out there with some of these people, whether or not they're directing, they're targeting certain groups, African Americans, Jews. I mean, a lot of times people like this, I mean, I think, to do this, to go in there and kill innocent people, you have to be mentally on course. I mean, you have to be, something's wrong with you. But, most of the time, LA, whether you're attacking a certain group or whatever, most people are going to get on there. They're going to have a manifesto. They're going to have something online. They're going to use the internet. They're going to use social media. So that's one of the things, at least the first thing that law enforcement does is they start digging into the background of the suspect and looking to see if the signs were there. Now, unfortunately, people miss the signs sometimes, and fortunately, we can catch some of these people. I think there was I read somewhere where I can't remember where, LA, and I apologize, but some firefighter, I think it was in Texas somewhere. This is an extreme example, but he was stopped nonetheless. Some guy was walking around in Walmart with a bulletproof vest on, and a firefighter took him down.
I think it was Vegas. I think it was in Las
Vegas.
Is what it happened.
So
I
think that sometimes, like you indicated, I think like the recent shooter. I mean, he was acting weird. He was going inside and out. He was high, but other times, more than likely, there's some sort of signs leading up to it. And a lot of these signs, man, like we were talking about, I mean, it's if somebody's acting weird, if something doesn't seem right, now definitions of weird are going to be different, but call the police, man. I mean, that's what the police are there for. I can't tell you how many times people would call us up and say, hey, this person is acting strange, and the police get there, they talk to him or her, and it turns out to be nothing. But I think a lot of times people are afraid to speak up because they don't want to be that person, that calls and something doesn't happen, or something's perfectly, that's all right, it's not going to happen. But you have to do that. I mean, that's what law enforcement is here for. We can't do things unless we know, unless we have the information. We rely on the people. So hopefully, people will be more apt to call when they see something strange, or they want somebody checked out, because it really starts with that.
But in fairness, though, Patrick, when you look at this, though, isn't it a little? Don't we have to be a little cautious, though, in the sense that, and especially in this climate, that if you're calling the police on something you think is suspicious, it might be a person of color, and then it's misread based on the climate that we're in right now with this whole racial climate, that might be a false call. But somebody's calling you. We've seen it on social media, and somebody's using their phone and calling it because there's a black guy in a neighborhood. He's maybe not necessarily you've seen him there before, or even in cases where someone may just didn't take their medicine or something, and they could be diabetic and just acting weird because of that. Don't we run the risk of sort of false calling, if you will, to authorities? Or are you just saying err on the side of caution?
Absolutely. I think there's always people we don't know. Law enforcement is just acting, on people who are calling the police. And absolutely, LA, people sometimes have ulterior motives when they call the police, but I think it's incumbent upon law enforcement to get as much information as they can and to do a proper, contact when they contact him or her. I mean, this happened to me, a couple of years ago, as a police officer. Somebody called up and said, hey, there's an African-American walking around this neighborhood. And I said, okay, what else? And they said, well, that's it. I said, well, I'm not going. So I think it's incumbent. You can't do that. So, officers have to be smart. Law enforcement has to be smart. I think we live in a heightened time right now, obviously in the United States. So, people are going to be, people are going to call the police, and, you're going to have those calls where people think something weird is going on, and police are going to get there, and hopefully most of the time it's going to turn out to be nothing. But I do believe, like you indicated, LA, we have to be very careful. We have to treat those situations delicately sometimes, because like you indicated, just because you're African American in a neighborhood doesn't mean you're doing something wrong, or Hispanic or whatever. And sometimes people for their medication. We're talking about mental illness. That's one of the issues what we have now in the United States. There's a lot of people now that can't get the mental help that they need, and they don't have access to prescription medication that can keep them, quote, balanced. And law enforcement is dealing with that on a daily basis, it seems like. So, you have to take all that in consideration.
But in fairness to even in that regard, in terms of it, I mean, I'm not a doctor or anything like that. I don't know all your background, but to me, there's a difference between SNAP and mental illness. Mental illness, to me, is as defined, is a chemical imbalance, and one somewhat. So, I guess what I'm saying, to get your thoughts on, if someone snaps and decides they just want to kill for whatever reason is different from someone being off their meds and then trying to harm themselves or harm somebody else. Because, I mean, statistics show it's less than 3%. It's about 3% of mentally ill try to harm people. They typically want to harm themselves if they're going to do any harm. So that debate is a little skewed. I mean, because, like I said, someone could have lost their job or lost their stock, or I've worked with compulsive gamblers that want to go out and kill people because they lost it all. So that's not really, to me, that's not mental illness. That's someone just kind of snapping and doing something irrational in the moment.
Well, I mean, I think it's gonna, the officers are gonna go. They're gonna, they're going to investigate. I mean, that's what the cops do, and that's just, if somebody calls the police now, like barring, like with the example I gave, with the person calling because that person was walking in a neighborhood, that African American, I'm like, well, what else is there? Well, there's nothing. Well, because he just didn't, I took that as, he just assumed that this poor guy was going to be doing something wrong because of his color. But officers, for the most part, they're going to go and investigate, because they're probably going to have more information. So I don't know, L.A., I mean, if you think we shouldn't go, or I don't know what exactly the question is.
No, my question or comment to you was that I think it's an unfair debate to put these incidents on mentally ill. I think that's what's been. I think that's what, quite frankly, NRA people or people who own guns or people have this boogeyman mentality that their Second Amendment rights are going to be violated and they're going to come collect guns. So and because of that, they push it on the mentally ill, and I think that's wrong because the statistics don't bear that out at all. They don't go around killing people. I mean, it's 3%, and they normally try to harm themselves.
But I think you can agree, L.A., maybe not, but anybody who goes into anywhere with the intent of inflicting as much human casualty on people, something is wrong upstairs. Now, yes, maybe they snapped. Maybe they lost their job. Maybe they lost all their money. Who knows? Maybe they got divorced. All horrible. But how many of that happens every day? I mean, that happens to people, millions of people every day. How many people snap and go start killing people? So I guess
Patrick,
my point
is but they have to be diagnosed as something, schizophrenia, something. You can't say they're mentally ill if they haven't been diagnosed as mentally ill. We don't know unless they've been diagnosed. But how many people, LA? How many people aren't diagnosed that are probably mentally ill? So I just think that anybody that can go in, kill a bunch of people, something's wrong upstairs. I mean, something is wrong upstairs, even if they don't have a diagnosis. And so that's when you have to that's when you have to investigate. The situation in El Paso was a hate crime. The situation in Dayton was the guy was high on stuff. They said cocaine and all other kinds of stuff. That's not. I mean, he might have needed some meds, and we're still the stuff coming out. But that night when he shot and killed 9 people, he was on all kinds of drugs. That's not mentally ill. That's somebody high as a kite. You've seen it as a officer. When somebody's on meth or something, they're going. That might just be somebody binging. That doesn't mean they're crazy. It just means that they're on some kind of drugs. That in that particular case in Dayton, and I think again the notion and the I think it's really wrong to push it on somebody being mentally ill unless they have a history of it, and we don't know until after, God forbid, it happens, the carnage is there, then you do the investigation. Yeah, okay, they were crazy or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, but I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but again, I mean, how many people get high every day? They're shooting up heroin, they're shooting up meth, they're high on coke that go out and kill people. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, I guess we're at an impasse. So I guess the question I have for you is, so the solution is to take everybody's guns or take guns or certain guns. Or
no, see, and that's where I'm telling you that's where the debate is going. I'm not. Yeah. I don't. I do. Now, listen, I feel, I've owned a gun, but I feel like I don't need an AK-47 to go kill Bambi in the woods. What do you need that for?
I agree with you.
I mean, what do you need that for? And to me, Patrick, being in law enforcement, I think if anybody should be pushing for these type of weapons, military weapons off the streets, is law enforcement, because you have to, your job is to go into danger.
Sure.
You're going into bullets. Why you want to fight? You got a 9 or something like that, and they're pumping out rounds 30, 40, 50 at a time. You pumping out a couple at a time. It behooves you not to want to get these off the streets if you're an officer, because you got a higher chance of getting killed by something that's going to pump out that much artillery.
I agree.
Rather than what you know what I mean? Even with
I agree 100%. But LA, so say we have a magic wand and we, poof, now ARs and AKs, they're illegal. So what do you do? I know with all the millions and millions of weapons that are still on the street, in people's homes. I mean, what do? You go door to door? You want a civil war? That ain't going to happen. So I mean, it's I don't know the solution. All I'm just saying is, so I think it's tricky. I mean, there are buyback programs and something like stuff like that some municipalities and states, but you're really not getting the stuff that needs to be off the street.
Yeah, and I'm not disagreeing. That's like saying, how do you stop murder? I mean, people are human beings. What I'm saying is that people have to be open to these type of solutions. It's almost like instead of, if you take some of those off the streets and out of the hands of the bad guys and whoever else, then the carnage won't be as bad. That's not a solution, but this man, both of these people killed multiple people within seconds and minutes. That's that's unconscionable. I mean,
I agree.
So I'm not saying that you're going to get rid of all, because bad people want to do bad things. The old saying is they asked the robber, why did you rob a bank? Well, that's where the money is. I mean, that's what they're going to do. But if you try to cut it back, right, then it won't be as bad. And my question to you is, why gun owners and pro-gun people are so against just any kind of comprehensive gun control, gun measures, gun backgrounds, background checks and things of that nature.
Well, we have gun background checks. I mean, I think that's a misnomer with some people. The Gun Control Act of 1968, regulates firearms on a federal level. There are background checks in all states, that prohibit certain people from getting weapons. So we have laws on the books. But I agree with you. Yeah. I mean, I think it's, to say everybody out there. We just had a discussion in LA, and I have guns, I have rifles, and I just said, look, I don't think rifles or AKs need to be out in the general public, but I'm one person. Right. Now, why does everybody else, or I shouldn't say everybody else, but there's a lot of people out there that cling to Second Amendment and say, look, we have a right to bear arms. That's really what it boils down to, the Second Amendment. Now, I agree with you, LA. I think there needs to be a discussion about it. I think we need to be open. You and I just had a discussion. I'm open to it.
Right.
I hope we get to that point where we need to be open to have these critical discussions, because we can't keep going the way we are. There needs to be some solutions, tangible solutions that we can come to agreement on.
Yeah, and I don't think when the Constitution was written, I don't think our forefathers, was thinking about these military weapons.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, the right to bear arms. And I'm with you. I certainly have no notion. I'm not one of these, bleeding liberals that want to say, okay, well, or make you feel like, we're going to take all your guns. That's just insane. That would never happen. Like in this country, you could never just take people's property like that. And that's the whole debate. Is really false. When people, that just tells me people don't really want to have a real discussion about it. Well, they start with these, they're going to start. No, that's not.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I think once you start talking about, gun debates and getting some of these guns off the street. I think that's the immediate mindset of where some people's mind go. And you're really you're never going to solve anything. You're never going to come to any kind of agreement if you just go directly there. There has to be an open, honest dialogue.
Absolutely. I can't let you go without talking about your podcast and how people can listen to it and how they can follow you, Patrick.
Well, L.A., once again, brother, thank you for having me on. You're the man. I love your show. People, if people want to find me, they can find me at cjrevolution.com. I have a criminal justice podcast, top ranked, and I have people, L.A., from not just criminal justice professionals, but I have people on there that talk about the importance of nutrition, mindset, communication experts. I mean, so all different kinds of people. That come on the show, even people that are anti-police. I've had anti-police people on the show because I want to hear their side of the story. So, just a great show, man. And it's growing because of, listeners that want to know, what police do. And, because most people, LA, you probably know this. I mean, they only get what they know about the police through movies and, television shows and stuff. So, check it out. I'd appreciate it. cjrevolution.com. It's a great show.
I'm sure it is. And I will be checking it out, and we'll be, if it's okay with you, post your information on our website so people can
absolutely
can follow you there. Patrick, as always, I appreciate it. We'll have you on again. Thanks for coming on this evening. God bless, and be safe, sir.
All right. Thank you, brother. Bye-bye.
All right, man. Patrick Fitzgibbons is, of course, good to have him on. Fitzgibbons, I say, having him on, criminal justice expert. I'm going to take a break, come back and get Dr. Wilmer J. Leon on, talk some politics, talk about the two women of color, the congresswomen and women that have been blocked by Israel for going near to their country. We'll talk about that and other things with Dr. Wilmer J. Leon III on the pad. Stay tuned. to the pad. We thank you for joining us. L.A. Batchelor with you alongside my good friend Tony T. McLean. We had a very good day thus far. 646-929-0130, the number to get in touch with us. Press 1 to get on the line. Your question, comments, you hit us up there. I want to bring in my next guest. Of course, he is the head football coach at Saint Augustine University, getting ready for the upcoming game. He is Tim Chavous. And Coach, we appreciate you coming on this evening, sir.
L.A., I appreciate it, man. Another year in the making.
Absolutely, and we're glad to have you on. Coach, you guys have a lot of talent on the squad. A lot of your players are picked to be All-Americans. So talk about this team, some of the strides you had last year, and why some people are really looking at you guys to make some waves here in the CIAA.
Well, we had a really young team last year. We had a really young team. We kind of over-recruited last year of just the local North Carolina, Wake County talent. So a lot of the kids that wound up playing last year were kind of like freshmen and sophomores and young guys. This year, we kind of added in a lot of junior college players that's going to come in and give us some maturity with our team. We also added 3 kickers this year. Last year, we just had one kicker that would punt and kick. So this year, we have 3 kickers that could do both. So I think what the reason that a lot of people seeing with my tentative schedule from the CIAA Media Day, that I pretty much stocked up the team with more mature guys from college transfers, junior college transfers, just to help those freshman kids out that I recruited last year. Got some veteran guys coming in certain positions that's going to help us, but we definitely got a veteran defensive line that's coming back. We got a veteran offensive line that's coming back. Those guys have been playing together for 3 and 4 years. Same thing with the defense. Those guys have been playing together for almost 2 to 3 years, where when you got that veteran leadership in the trenches, it just helps out with the skilled players.
Yeah, it really does. Let's look at the way they are predicted you guys to finish in the Southern Division. You've picked to finish right below your rivals. Overall, you picked to finish 9th overall in the conference. But again, you have a lot of good talent on both sides of the ball we could talk about shortly. But is that locker room poster stuff for you guys when you hear all rivals, let alone Winston-Salem State and others, Fayetteville State finishing ahead of you as well? Is that something that you point to your returning guys that maybe play with a little chip on your shoulder?
Most definitely. I pretty much, it's just like the Final Four. I make them have a watch party in the dormitory so they can see exactly how the CIAA loves us when it comes to that voting and those polls and stuff. So, look, I make sure I have popcorn and everything ready for them guys to have a watch party so they can get pumped up to see how much they're respected in the CIAA. It fuels my guys, and it also fuels my coaches. You understand? Because, like I said, having a young team, having a 17-year-old quarterback last year, and we're only getting beat by, I think 2 or 3 points against Fayetteville, and we only losing by 10 points on a punt return and a punt block. Last year against Bowie, we're almost there. I mean, a lot of our games in our conference in the South was very, very close games. But just for us having a young team last year, it fused us up big time, L.A. Like, those guys were talking trash. Once I got back on campus the following week, them guys were like, Coach, they keep trying us every year. And I'm like, yeah, man, so what you guys going to do about it? So I kind of use that too, L.A. That was funny, but I tell everybody every time, like, I don't want them to pick us, keep picking us low so we can impress people and let people know that we're still working out here.
Talking with Tim Chavous, of course, young head football coach at St. Augustine, getting ready for their upcoming year. I mentioned some talent you have on both sides of the ball. In particular, when you look at your linebacker position in Joseph Harris coming back, and all-world type of talent. Talk about that defense and some of the other players that are really good on that side of the ball.
I'm gonna tell you, man. We had a couple of preseason guys, and we had a couple of honorable mention guys by Roy Harris. You got the All CIAA first team, Joe Harris. You got Tiaz Mooney coming back at the defensive line. You got Desmond Quinterly coming back for his third year. You got Brandon Jackson. He had a phenomenal game career last year. It's just I could keep going on and on. You know, Curtis Hardy. You know, you got a lot of veteran guys coming back. Tiaz. You got Tion Davis. We got a lot of guys coming back, but we also, in addition, we added at least 9 to 10 junior college transfers to come in to give us a little bit of leadership also that's going to help us out on the defensive side. But just those names alone, those are some names I know you're pretty familiar with that's been with me for almost 2 years and 3 years. And then, like I said, Joe Harris, he only a sophomore, you know, and he made All CIAA first team last year as a freshman. So he's coming in and he's leading our defense, and he's looking really good in practice. He's definitely a coach on and off the field, getting these guys in position to make plays. And he gained all the respect for the college transfers that's coming in. They're pretty much looking at him as a leader, and he's only 19.
Wow, you know that's young to be a leader on the team. You speaking of, before I go to Tony T. Mac McClain, I'm sure he's got questions as well.
Yes, sir.
Coach, this team has a lot of leadership in senior and juniors. You do have some freshmen that'll be learning. You got a lot of freshmen on the roster and some sophomores that can help. But talk about this senior and junior leadership and how they can help, and talk about that talent on the offensive side of the ball.
The offensive side of the ball, starting with my starting tailback, that's a senior from Miami, Florida, transferred from ASA Miami. His name is Jeremiah Miller. He's definitely another guy, 1,000-yard back, close to 1,000 yards actually. Honorable mention type guy. He's one of my senior captains, a great leader. My offensive lineman, my senior, my center, my anchor. He's also he's a 3.5 type GPA kid. So he's a student athlete first. All academic team. He's one of my captains also. You got Lamar K. Hill. He's another senior on my left tackle. You got a veteran left guard and right guard. My left guard, like I said, Joe Edwards. He's coming in as a junior. I got a senior fullback, Larry Blanks is coming in. That was blocking for Jeremiah Miller. He's coming in, got a lot of experience, very smart kid. And then with the receiver corps, you got Anthony Berry. He's coming back. He was a freshman last year. He's coming back. You got DeAndre Conley. He was a freshman last year. He's coming back as a sophomore. And then we brought in 5 junior college transfer receivers. We got Joseph Baker. That was one of my freshman All-CIAA kids. That's a 2-year non-transfer. He hasn't played in 2 years, but when he was with me as a freshman, he was All-CIAA for his freshman year. His name Joseph Baker, top prospect out of Greensbury High School. So when I say, like you say, LA, I got a lot of leadership on that offense, especially in them trenches. You gotta have a lot of leadership at the offensive line. Roundtree, he's another kid that's coming in as a junior, right guard, and we had to replace Zachary Jenkins. He was a senior last year, but we're bringing in a guy named Zach Barco, transfer from ECU. So we're bringing in some really pretty good guys to replace, some of the guys. And like I said, LA, it's going to be an interesting year because, when those other CIAA coaches watch film, they're not going to even notice who these other guys are. They don't have no film on these new guys, so it's going to be interesting.
Definitely going to be interesting. You got a lot of talent, and I know that Falcon fans are excited on that campus, ready to get started. Talking with Coach Tim Chavous. He's the head football coach at Saint Augustine University here on the pad, getting ready for Lenoir-Rhyne soon. 646-929-0130, the number to get in touch with us. Press 1 to get on the line if you have a question for Coach. With that, I turn the questions over to my good friend and co-host, Tony T-Mac McClain.
Coach, thanks for joining us. A smarter person than me once said the only good thing about freshmen is that they become sophomores. But I think what you guys did last year, with all the freshmen literally, learning under fire, even though the record may not reflect it, a lot was gained last year. How do you use last year's sort of, classroom to get ready for this year?
Pretty much, man. We evaluate those guys really, really strong, T-Mac. I mean, like, when it comes down to every position, every era, every play that those freshmen took off, we let them see that, and we have them to learn from their mistakes. You know what I'm saying? We let everybody that was on that punt team that got that punt block against Bowie. Well, we wound up losing the game from a punt block and a punt return. It's just those simple things, T-Mac, where those freshmen can really get in the film room and really, really study and understand that we're putting a lot of 100% into our special teams this year. That's why I was telling Adelaide we went out and got 3 kickers. I brought in a coach that was once a great, special teams player at Saint Augustine University, wound up being an All-American and on that same defensive special team that was ranked in the nation, I want to say like 4 or 5 years ago, under Coach Fazell and Coach Costa. So I'm bringing in coaches that knows how to coach specific special teams and put us back in that same situation so we don't have that struggle at special teams anymore. And when I say T-Mac, we putting like 20 to 25 minutes, almost 30 minutes in the special teams every day. It's part of our game planning now.
Right.
It's part of our game planning where, we're not going to lose no more games just because of special teams. Never again, because we're implementing that in our game plan this year.
And that can be the difference between a 3-point loss or a 7-point win most of the time. And,
yes,
looking at the early part of this, after the first 2 non-conference games, I mean, you're right in the teeth of this of the league. You host now. Luckily, 3 of the first 4 league games you're home. You host Virginia, got to go up to Bowie, but then you get Elizabeth State and Livingstone at home. I mean, obvious. How important is it for you to get off to the good start in the league? Not to bypass the 2 non-conference games, but especially with the way the league is this year, how important is it going to be to jump on those first 4 games early, especially when you're going to be home for 3 of them?
Well, I'll tell you what, Coach Pup Williams, I had to thank him for not putting no guaranteed A&T and Central on the schedule this year. Hey guys, listen. When he came to me, he was like, Coach, we're gonna rest this year. I know we got the guaranteed games and you want them. And I'm thinking back in my head, man, I'm so glad we got Mars Hill and Lenoir-Rhyne. Not saying that they're no coach.
Right.
It's a big difference playing a national championship team as an A&T and then coming back trying to play a Central, or a Jacksonville University down in Florida. So, I'm gonna tell you, T-Mac, man, not to knock those teams, but we sticking to the Division II competition now. We wanted to put the 2 teams on there just in case, we get a shot to the playoffs. We done played 2 pretty good Division II teams, and with Lenoir-Rhyne that's ranked in the top 5 in the nation. So it's a situation where at least we're in the same category as Division II teams, no guaranteed games, and then to get us prepared for a fast-paced CIAA Virginia State. I think it's going to help us to go in to the CIAA a little bit more healthier this year. Because I tell you, T-Mac, after playing an A&T and a Central, man, we going in the game with almost like 8 or 9 injuries of starters.
Right. Well, thank you. Goodness. It's it's a good thing that they didn't put like the Rams or the Cowboys on your schedule too while they were at it to get you ready. But to piggyback on that, and that is the dilemma that a lot of HBCUs have to go through, because you play the thing of playing the money game as opposed to yes, the money games get your teams ready, but as opposed to doing what you're doing now, playing top rank, playing top talent in the Division II, how do you balance that as a coach? Because like you said, the money games, the importance, but the other side is, like you said, and probably last year was a perfect example of that. You were licking your wounds on and off the field.
Oh man. Jacksonville University put it to us on ESPN3. You know what I mean? Like, it was a situation where it was the first game of the season, and we was licking our wounds, and we weren't even in the CIAA yet. It's a situation where it's a gift and a curse. We can use the money. We're HBCU. We don't have a lot of money. We do fundraise, but it's a private institution where we do need these guarantee games. But then again, it hurts us because, our guys getting broken up out there.
Right.
Our guys are getting broken up. They're trying to play the guarantee game. So, this year our schedule is a little bit better. I'm not going to say, those two Division II powerhouses are not good teams, but at least we're equal when it comes to recruiting and you know what I'm saying, and just trying to be on an even playing field.
Right.
You understand? And I think it's going to help us with the speed of the game because, like I said, if you guys see Lenoir-Rhyne, they look like a Division I school. They went 12-2 last year, and with a new coaching staff, they're clicking. They're clicking, and to play a team like that, it'll give us a good chance to see what that Division II playoffs look like because they almost went to the national championship. You know what I'm saying? Almost beating Valdosta State. So it's just a situation where our guys can get a good taste of what it feels like to play a playoff team, a high-ranked playoff team, and then coming back playing another team. Now, don't get me wrong, Morrisville didn't have a really good record last year, but he was in the same situation as me, having a lot of young freshmen. So he's going to come back with a nice powerhouse. That's a good coach over there. Both of them are great coaches that know how to recruit. So it's definitely going to be a battle, but like I said, it's not going to take too much toll on my guys. It's not playing the FCS Division I school, Division I AA school. They're playing a regular Division II school powerhouse.
Exactly. Thank you, Coach.
No, anytime. Thank you, T-Mac.
Coach, just to piggyback, you probably answered this, but why don't you see more Division II HBCUs go that route and stay within Division II, play those teams? You have a shot at beating them. Like you said, the recruiting is different, but, the scholarships are the same. And you play these games, and then you win against a Lenoir-Rhyne. That looks good on your resume for the playoffs. Why not take that route? Why not other institutions, especially state institutions, not the private ones so much, but the state institutions, because they need the money and have to do more fundraising anyway. Right.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, LA, it all boils down to money, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, and whatever your AD, sit you down at the table and really much you guys come up with that schedule together, or with your AD really telling you how the finances are and how the budget is for that following year, or what we have to do to be able to take care of the football season and what will help us out with the budget. It boils down to the money, honestly. And with the guaranteed games, it's like, you do a lot of fundraising and you play the guaranteed games the year before. It gives you a little leeway where you don't have to play guaranteed games every year because you got that money to use for the following year, if that makes any sense, for the next season, when you play guaranteed games, because it gives you a little cushion. But to answer your question, it just boils down to the money and that certain athletic program budget, honestly, and just you playing those games to see what's going to help you and needs for your institution. You know what I mean? Especially with us being private. You know, we don't get that state funded where we got to play guaranteed games every other year. Well, when I first got here, we were playing them every year, and it was beating us up pretty bad. But this year, you know, my AD George Williams gave me some leeway to say, you know what, you know, we want to play some powerhouse Division IIs because that's going to give us a shot having a A+ schedule. And for us, if you look at our schedule, it's an A+ schedule. Having just Lenoir-Rhyne on there by themselves with Morris Hill. You know, we wind up beating those two teams and winning the South, you know, wind up 7-3, you know, we could get some votes to get into it, maybe a playoff, you know, a first round bid. Just beating two ranked teams that are Division II and finishing the South and making it to the championship, we may have a shot.
You know, you talk about playoffs, and a team that's very familiar with it is Bowie State. They've been sort of the class of the league in winning titles. Not the slight, with no disrespect to the South, because Fayetteville State and Winston, and you guys are up and coming, have been very formidable. But the North has been sort of dominant in the sense of kind of beating up on everybody else. Bowie and the Virginia schools in particular. Shawan's a very good offensive team too, by the way. Very good offensive team, Shawan. So what about that? What's been sort of the difference, if you can put a finger on it, in terms of the Northern Division and how successful they've been lately as opposed to the Southern Division?
You pretty much look at them schedules, LA. If you look at the schedules, you see a lot of teams in the South, they really need those guaranteed games for the money. You see the teams in the South, they play more guaranteed games. You look at Bowie's schedule and you look at Virginia Union schedule, they're not playing no FCS schools. Now, they are this year. I know Virginia Union is, you know, and I'm not sure about Bowie, but their championship years, they wasn't playing no Central and no A&T. You understand what I'm saying? No high quality FCS schools. They were playing other Division II schools that were high powered. Don't get me wrong. They were playing other Division II schools that was pretty good. They probably played an FCS school that was pretty good, but not as the same caliber as an A&T or a Central. And
let me ask you this, though. I know, just to play advocate here, Bowie plays Howard a lot. I know. Virginia State in particular will play Norfolk State. They're both in the same conference, a very tough conference in the MEAC, and they're playing those. So, they are playing some schools, but they're not playing the A&T, which A&T happens to be the best team right now going at this point in the MEAC.
Listen, L.A., them two schools compared to A&T and the Central, they couldn't hold the G-strap. You understand? You understand?
You heard that, Chief? You heard it first.
Look, Howard's a pretty good school. You know, they came close, but A&T, and Norfolk State, man, I know some Division IIs can beat Norfolk State now. Not to knock him, but them teams ain't close to no teams like A&T. A&T is doing a hell of a job recruiting. Central is doing a hell of a job recruiting. And not to knock them schools, not to knock Howard. Howard got a really decent team. But they just not A&T and they're not Central. Or they're not Bethune-Cookman. Those are three teams in the MEAC that I don't think that can touch Norfolk State or Howard or some of them schools. Now, when some of them Division II schools start playing the A&T and the Central and the Bethune-Cookman, then we could really be like, you know what? Yeah, they playing some really good schools because them head coaches thinking like I'm thinking. You know, they want to play a high-quality D2 school, that's going to get them some quality points in the voting with the playoffs, but they ain't going to get no big-time school to beat up their program, and when it's time to get into the CIAA, all those guys are hurt up. And then plus a lot of them schools don't need the money.
Yeah. I was waiting for you to throw one of your Florida, your neck of the woods schools in there. You threw Bethune-Cookman in there.
Yeah, and man, you know I won't be a good interview if I ain't talk a little trash.
You heard it first here on the pad. Coach Chavous is saying we have to get Norfolk on and Howard on and play this back. That's what we're gonna do. Them
guys are gonna be trying to put me on the schedule so bad. I'm gonna ignore all their calls. I'm like, y'all ain't gonna beat up on me because I'm talking trash. No, those are great programs. I respect both head coaches. They're great programs.
Yeah,
but like you said, I'll play them before I play A&T. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. I do. Speaking of who you're playing, this is you got. I mean, like T said, this first 4 games alone. No disrespect to Elizabeth City, who you'll play, in October, but these first 4 games alone are going to be a grind and a battle for you guys. Well, let's start with the first one. You look at this Lenoir-Rhyne team, like you said, a powerhouse at the D2 level. What are the keys to winning on both offensive and defense, especially going up to Hickory instead of playing in Raleigh?
Well, my thing is just playing a balanced game. We're going to be playing under their rules and their conference referees, and L.A., me and when we go in other homes like the Carson Newmans and all these crazy national ranked Division II powerhouses, they kind of got a leadway on you, especially with, their conference referees and things, their rules and regulations in their conference. So it's going to be tough. We're going to be in a situation where we're already 21 points down. And I know you pretty much heard that before. Pretty much heard that before. That's an old saying, but it is true. It is true when you're going in the territory of out-of-conference game, a 12-2 national playoff team, nationally ranked. Yeah, we're going to be behind the gun. My thing, L.A., is playing a balanced game, a balanced football game. Having time of possession of the football, not even letting their offense get on the field. So pretty much just having at least over 30 minutes of time of possession. That's one of my keys. Having a balanced attack on my special teams. I'm going to say this all throughout the year. Having time of possession, having a balanced special teams where special teams not going to hurt you, and the score won't be as bad. And it may come out victorious from mistakes of the opponent, making mistakes on special teams and not letting their high-powered offense touch the field. And those are some key things that a lot of head coaches try to go in this situation where you're playing like a high-powered Division II nationally playoff-type team. It's time of possession and special teams, to keep their high-powered offense off the field.
It's funny you should say that. I'm going to let you go in a sec, though. Having that balance, and I know you like to run the football, but you're going to have to put it in the air. You have a capable senior quarterback there, but God forbid, and I'm not wishing anything, that, he goes down or have some struggles. You really don't have a lot of experience as a backup. How do you combat that, and what type of plays will you put in to protect them? Are you going to, not to give up your game plan in particular for any game, but, more double tight ends, a little more mass protect to keep him, because you don't have a lot of experience if he goes down at backup, either second or third string.
It's going to be a real simple game offensively for us. A real simple game, and like you said, not giving up what we're going to do. We're going to keep it basic and simple and max protect him every play. You understand what I'm saying? We're going to max protect our quarterback because we definitely got to get through the season and at least get through the CIAA. We're going to put him in a situation where he can be protective and we can get off some basic plays where it won't just try to keep them guessing a little bit. So a lot of motion, a lot of max protection, you understand, to keep them moving around so we can see exactly taking advantage of their weak points on defense. They really don't have any. They had almost like 8 to 9 preseason All-Americans on their defense. So they got a lot of their defense guys coming back. And I believe in defense and special teams winning championships, and they got a high-powered defense. So we're going to keep it a little basic and keep it max protection because they do blitz a lot. They got a nice little blitz and package together. So we're going to keep them protected. That's going to be the first thing. We're going to be max protect the whole game.
Yeah, they swarming defense. They got a lot of talent, and if they know, that you're trying to keep it basic and just run, they stop the run. They want to force your quarterback to beat them down the field. I'm sure you can. Listen, best of luck, Coach Chavous. Of course, this is not, obviously, I'll be calling again. You'll be back on. I appreciate the time, and prayerfully, I'll see you at your opening game against Virginia State on the 21st of September.
Hey, LA, I'm looking forward to it, man. It's a pleasure talking to you and T-Mac, man. You guys got me all pumped up. I'm about to go to this team meeting now, so I'm going to go on my team meeting all pumped up and rah-rah and talk some trash to the kids now.
Shoot, you rile yourself up.
Thank you, man.
You look like you should be on the field again is what you look like, so young. That's what you look like.
Yeah, man, I wish, man. Them guys would kill me right now. Yeah.
Coach, I appreciate it, man.
It's a pleasure, man. It's a pleasure every time, man. I really appreciate the support.
Absolutely. All right. Go Falcons. Have a good evening, sir.
All right, man. Take it easy, T-Mac. You guys take it easy.
Yes, sir.
All right, LA.
Welcome back to the Batchelor Pad. Thanks for Tim Chavous for joining us this evening on the Batchelor Pad. It's LA Batchelor with you. It is a Monday evening. Here's hoping wherever you are listening that you are empowered and enjoying and educated as we try to bring you the world of sports and beyond. As I mentioned, LA Batchelor, alongside my good friends Tony T. Mac McLean and Reggie Howell. Are you both there?
We're here.
Reg? Try to get Reg on here, and then we'll have it complete. You Reg?
I'm here. Yep.
Okay, good. Hey, the show is on the road. We I'm here on the campus of Batchelor Junior training camp as he continues to practice with football here. So we're doing that on the road. But I wanted to get you guys' thoughts before we go to sports, just to kind of it's sports related actually. It's actually very much sports related, and that is the back and forth. Start with UT. The back and forth between Jay-Z, who decided he wanted no part of the Super Bowl with the NFL, and Colin Kaepernick, and the fact that Jay-Z signed this quote-unquote social agreement with the league to bring forth social change, bring forth more African Americans in terms of music, and all of those things, which essentially have nothing to do with kneeling or police brutality or anything, of what I've read. So, Al Sharpton, who I know some are fans of, it said, listen, the fight is not between the two of them. The fight is with the NFL. They're going about it different ways. Jay-Z, again, mentioned that he wanted no part of the Super Bowl. Now he is a partner with the NFL. Your thoughts on him and the fact that, he mentioned in his statement he spoke with Colin. Well, you and I can speak with Colin. That doesn't mean anything. He spoke with him. That doesn't mean they came to an agreement. So what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts with that, T?
You know what? I would have agreed with him, but his nose poked me in the eye as he was saying that. So I can't roll. I can't roll with it. Look, Mr. Beyonce basically just did a deal for himself. He did a deal for himself. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. This is unfortunately what happens so many times. Guys get lost in what's the old whisper song, Lost and Turned Out.
The whispers, yeah.
Yeah,
that's right.
Exhibit A. Mr. Beyonce is Exhibit A.
Didn't it basically, T, in our neighborhoods and Reggie, don't piss on me and tell me it's raining. If you're a businessman, just say it's a business move. Don't try to make this into some social change and all this other stuff when you blatantly had nothing to do with the NFL from the start, T.
Well, no, he was, as far as I'm concerned, if you look at that tape very carefully, you see Eric Goodell's hands in the back of Mr. Beyonce's back. So, it's too bad that, I always look at it like this. We always really find out about folks when stuff like this happens. So now we know exactly about Jay-Z. And again, let me be clear. I'm like you. How you make your money and how you want to make your money, that's really your own business. I could,
right.
In that aspect is whatever. But please don't try and placate to folks. I mean, look, at least Michael Jordan was up front. He said Republicans buy sneakers too. So you knew exactly where he was coming from. He didn't try to
he didn't try to battle you with BS. He told you exactly where he was coming from. It's interesting. I heard someone say, Colin needs to say something or speak something. And my thing is,
how much more the hell he needs to say?
Well, doesn't his actions speak more than anything else? Because you had people that's called him a sellout for his suit against the NFL. He fought against the NFL in courts because they blackballed him.
Right.
And anyone that wants to challenge that, please feel, I'll wait. And see, again, one of the things to me that was kind of troubling was hearing Jay-Z say, well, what do we do for, okay, you protested, you won, now what? He sounded just like these white supremacists that we hear and see on the airwaves every day when he said that. As far as I'm concerned, Mr. Beyonce went to another level with that.
And Reggie, listen, we already talked about this last week, and Tony's right. I mean, the fact is that, listen, he said, okay, so are we going to keep kneeling, or are we going to basically take a shot at Colin Kaepernick? And my thing is, again, if it's about the monies, hey, you know what, and you want to sugarcoat it. I understand to a certain degree he's trying to sugarcoat it only because he not only boycotted the Super Bowl, he made a rap against the NFL. So now he's trying to sugarcoat it. But just say, you know what, this is an opportunity from a business standpoint to bring forth change and make some shit up. But don't come with this whole I'm helping Colin. Colin Kaepernick is still not on a roster right now. And you look at the 32 teams in the NFL, as we know, the three of us know, that he's better than more than half of the starting quarterbacks in the league. He's been to a Super Bowl. So, I understand what Sharp is trying to say, don't divide and all that, let's keep it amongst ourselves and that kind of, but, you can't, as Tony calls Miss Beyonce, Mr. Beyonce.
No, Mr. I didn't call him Miss. I called him Mr.
No, I said Mr. I said Mr.
I know.
Mr. Beyonce, so Mr. Beyonce needs to come clean. He needs to come clean in what he's saying, man, and keep it real. And we do have a right, by the way, because that's what black folks do. We have a right to disagree amongst ourselves. That's what we do.
Well, first of all, good evening, gentlemen. And
yes, sir.
I must say that my condolence goes out to one of our colleagues, Luke Williams, who his brother made a transition yesterday.
Yes, sir.
So
yes,
you
sir.
see Luke, make sure we give our condolence to him.
Yeah, he was, a matter of fact, he was supposed to be on this evening, and I didn't want to bring it up, but yeah, absolutely, prayers.
Yeah.
I talked to him earlier, so prayers still go to Lou and his family. Yes, sir.
Well, if we want to be intellectually honest about this, and that's why I love T. Munch, and happy belated birthday, family. Way to go, T. Slid that by. So are you 18 or 19 now?
Carried it. I'll just say carried it 2. I'll just leave it at that.
You better carry the 3. That's what you better do. Carry the 3.
That's why I don't say anything, because I know that there's always some Weisenheimer around there that's
Yeah, but in my opinion, if we look at Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and look at the amount of money that it cost him because he would not play in the Olympics and cause civil rights, if we look at Congressman Lewis and the Antipas Bridge, we look at Dr. King and Rosa Parks were offered money, free bus rides, even fired the racist-ass driver, and they said no. They kept the eye on the prize. They know how to do the Woody Lynch, divide and conquer. This is nothing new for the NFL. NFL last year during the Super Bowl, the whole time they were questioned was about how come Colin Kaepernick is not here. And they couldn't stand it. They drove this scenario. Maroon 5, or whatever the hell that group was running around. They had to ask questions about Colin Kaepernick. And yes, it's interesting that Charlamagne the God even pointed out that in his interview, the NFL co-opted that. And they tried to go ahead and find out what were the true questions being asked. So when I look at Mr. Beyonce, as T-Mac so eloquently quoted, thank you for that, T. I'm still in it, as always.
No problem.
Let's look at what happened in New Jersey when the gentrification came because of the Barclays Center. I'm already looking at this brother action, a.k.a. Miss Beyonce. And what bothers me is that once again, we see these white supremacist owners, number one being Jerry Jones, and his flippant remark about Zach who, or whatever the hell he's trying to be slick out of his mouth. This is who they are, white supremacy to the highest. And I would say, not trying to be too long-winded, the bottom line is that Jay-Z, if he gets 2 or 3%, will have no power at the table when it comes to more hiring black coaches, more diversity as far as the front offices, and also when it comes to ownership of other teams. Come on, let's be honest about it. He does not have the juice in order to go in and get another team. And last time I checked, only team I think that might be for sale might be the San Diego Chargers if they take them back to San Diego. But all the other teams are pretty solid. Mm. So can y'all help me out? Because maybe I missed something.
LA, it's very ironic that Mikhail Prokopov, the former owner of the Brooklyn Nets, sold his remaining shares over the weekend, and the Barclays Center as well. Now, if you remember, Mr. Beyonce owned 2% of that, for whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But see, it's this whole thing of symbolism. Because see, there are some of us that want to fall into the whole symbolism thing, and that's not a trait I think we as black folks need to get into or follow, because there have always been instances where we've been co-opted or what have you. I mean, at the end of the day, Jay-Z got co-opted, and he's not the first. We saw it happen with Malcolm Jenkins. We've seen it happen with other folks. When Steve Harvey made a big thing about having a sit down with Trump, and how ironic is it that of all people, Al Sharpton is trying to say, because Sharpton is just upset that he didn't get his cut more than anything else. But
right about that. The FBI informant, I might add.
Yeah, but see, the thing here again that's the most troubling is here we are. To see what's the one constant through this whole Kaepernick thing? The NFL is still trying to break him. The NFL thought when they blackballed him, okay, we're done with it. It's been 3 years now, and Colin's not going anywhere. Now, I know there are folks that still would like to see him on a roster, and then when you see a Josh McCown literally being taken out of the broadcast booth and handed a backup job, to me, again, it speaks to just how far they're willing to go to discredit this man.
But the NFL did, guys, real quick, and I'm back on. I apologize for that. The NFL though, it has they have their partner. Jay-Z is the Charles Barkley of this relationship. They go, see, we got Jay-Z, so what's wrong? Yeah, what's wrong with the NFL? We got Jay-Z.
And don't forget Stephen A. Smith. He's another culprit.
And Stephen A. Smith.
Train too.
Well, look, they have a military junta of folks who are willing to sell their souls for the NFL. And all this did was just let us know what side Jay-Z, because see, again, for all the folks that said this was a money move,
Okay, Captain Obvious. Yeah, we get that. But at what point do you stop selling yourself out?
Really, it's Willie Lynch all over again. The thing that really troubles me, gentlemen, is that every time when a movement gets going, you always see a few that want to be comfortable about it. I would say again, Dr. King, when it came to the trash men down in Memphis, he said they got to feel the pain. So Coke and Seal Test ice cream, we're not purchasing your product anymore. And the sad thing about it, gentlemen, if y'all can help me, yes, there is a base of young folks that are going to follow Jay-Z, just like the base of white supremacists and racists that tried to occupy the White House, the colonizer.
But that's the dangerous part of it. That's the dangerous part of Reggie, what you're talking about. It's very dangerous. I want to bring Orlando Hughes in here, KRSB, been on the, let's say, on assignment for a while, Big O. But I've said this before, that most people are passive-aggressive. Most people don't want to speak the truth because the truth is too much for them, let alone anybody else. So they look for reasons not to do. And then, so here comes Jay-Z in that situation. And again, as I mentioned to Tony and Reggie, this was a guy who was against the NFL, against the Super Bowl. He wouldn't even perform. He even made a rap with his wife in the video against the NFL. And then all of a sudden he said, "Oh man," or they came to him and said, "Oh man, I'll pay you this and you can do this." All of a sudden, he's happy and go lucky with it. That's the danger. That's the danger of it, because all those people who were against the NFL when he was against it might be in favor of the NFL because he's now have a partnership.
Well, good evening to all the gentlemen, and T, happy belated birthday.
Thank you. Hey, Orlando, don't be cussing at me, man. I don't like that gentleman stuff. Don't be cussing at me.
Listen.
I'm sorry. I had a flashback, man. I had a flashback. I'm sorry.
I understand to the esteemed gentleman on this line. First of all, I'm no fan of Jay-Z. Don't believe in him. This is like glorifying Bumpy Johnson's career to me, and the mere fact that he's sitting, and you know what it was? I'm putting the trash in the recycle bin, and that's just what I think of Jay-Z. And I've always thought of him that way.
Wow, that's a metaphor.
I've always thought of him that way. We talked about him before. Has he done a few good things? Yeah, he's done a few good things, but I'm not surprised. He's the hypocrite that continues to be used. He's like Magic, who with a signature, and he has a following that he will bring in just by his namesake. But he brought that arena into Brooklyn and made everybody feel like it was going to bring jobs to Brooklyn and everything going to be good for our folks in Brooklyn. Well, jobs aren't there in Brooklyn, and it ain't all that good for most of our folks. Now, are some of our people thriving? Sure, they are, but the average one is not. So when it comes to this Colin Kaepernick thing, and it's interesting being here in Philly because, do you get Kaepernick or do you not get Kaepernick? And for the Eagles, and how, heaven knows I'm not going to apologize for no white man's business, but I'm like, it almost behooves you not to bring in Kaepernick, because you're going to be answering. And I heard someone that's in the organization. He said this to me. He was like, listen, if we bring him in, and heaven knows that he's better than what we have, but we're going to spend all of our time answering questions. Like, so it's not going to be about the season of what we're trying to accomplish. It's going to be about him. And he said the media and these white folks have flipped the script and they've lost sight of what he was kneeling for. You know, what he was kneeling for. The fact that you and I and our relatives, men and women, sadly, can't drive on the highway without worrying about if we're going to get shot. White people still don't understand what it's like to be on the highway, no matter how old you are, and you see lights flashing, there's a sudden change in your heartbeat. For all black men.
Absolutely. And
don't care how much money. Don't care how much money you have. It's still the same. Your heart skips a beat. It skips a beat.
What's so sad, Orlando, is that that's the thing. No one, because what would probably hurt more than anything else hearing Mr. Beyonce say is that he basically was trying to say
Mr.
it's
Beyonce,
over.
I love it.
He basically was just kept trying to say that it was over, and that's the thing. That's the thing that's bothersome. Any black man, black woman that wants to try and just say, okay, it's over, we won. That's playing from the white supremacist playbook.
Yeah.
Just because you've got a couple of bucks. No, go ahead.
Yeah.
But
my
have
thing,
to stop
real
being
quick.
enamored by it. Go ahead, Rich.
No, but my thing is, I go back to the historical point of view. When Tommy Smith and John Carlos stood up there with those black gloves, they knew that they were going to be not only blackballed, but probably had their lives threatened each and every day. Again, I go back from a historical point of view. The people that are sitting around on their ass today saying, what is we going to do, benefited from those people that lost their lives and fought back in the day. And what really bothers me is that the Europeans always know how to play this divide and conquer Willie Lynch game. They've been doing it for so long that we even know the playbook. And there's a generation out there that have failed where the Jews make sure, and Orlando, you talk about this, Orlando, Jews make sure that young people know their history, right or wrong.
Listen, it's called Sankofa, and the Jews get it from us. And you never forget from what you come from, and everything about it. The theory is, and gentlemen, you heard me say this before. If you take a 5-year-old white boy and drop him in the hood of hoods, right? He will get laughed at, but like, oh my goodness, what's this white boy doing here? But someone's going to help him, feed him, and try to get him home to his mother. You take a 5-year-old black boy, drop him in the whitest of white neighborhoods, and there'll be about 6 or 7 police cars that will pull up on him and ready to shoot and do it to me rights. And if I'm lying, correct me. So there's a fear about us and our history that it's been all jarred up and messed up from religion on down to everything. Like, they do not want us to remember who we are and what we are. And as I've heard said on this show, the Jimbos and not the Sambos, the Coons, the Sambos, have done a great job of doing the white man's bid. Like, there are a group of black folks who are put in the power specifically to quell the power of black generations. And it's happened with our generation. Look at it. In the late 80s, early 90s, our generation was ready to kill somebody. Like, listening to Public Enemy and everything else, like, we'd have set this planet on fire. They shut that crap down. They shut it down. Now we're all in our 40s, 50s. Then we got the next generation, and they did everything possible to make sure you will never see another movement as far as music and consciousness within black people. Because they say, wait a minute. We let their boomer parents get into it back in the 60s and 70s with James Brown and Parliament and all that stuff they were listening to, and we almost made a mistake and let the kids get into it. But we're not going to let their grandkids ever reach that point. and everything about society now is not about kids being kids and being conscious and everything else. So, Jay-Z, I say it all the time. I'm not surprised. Not surprised.
Yeah.
Why are we happy because a celebrity has $1 billion? Why are we happy? Why is he getting attention? Like, what's so special about him? You made records about selling dope, and you sat down with the president. That's an oxymoron, Barack Obama. Why are you sitting with him? What's so prestigious about his life? He was a dope dealer.
And all it did is it just adds to that whole self-hate gene that a lot of us unfortunately are infected with, and that's the thing that's just I guess one of the things that's so bothersome. And it's just kind of sobering that it's the 2019 we're still sort of dealing with. I think that's for all of us here who are on that same age wing. I think that's the thing. It's not surprising. It's more like I said. It's more troubling than it is surprising because there's an old Ice Cube line from one of his raps. They'll get a new one next year. They'll get another one next year.
Oh yeah. And America's Most Wanted. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And this was basically Jay-Z's number was up because they basically have this is their way of suppressing him. But see, I also believe that yes, it is folks coming to him to suppress him, but see, a lot of it is you also wanting to be suppressed because look, what's Jay-Z now? He's like almost 50 now, right? He's getting up there in age now.
He's over 50.
So,
he's over 50. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, for the sake of argument, he's 50.
Right.
So he doesn't want to fight anymore. And again, I'm not going to beat him up for that. But in that same vein, don't try to kill ones that are trying to fight.
Right. No, it's the same thing about. I got a story to tell all you guys. As a matter of fact, LA called me earlier, but I won't say it on the radio yet because I need to validate some things. But alarming, to say the least. But someone tried to bring some information to me about one of our HBCU athletic directors, and it was so upsetting to hear what they were saying that I said, look, just because this person wasted an hour of your life, you are not going to waste another minute talking about the BS that he sold you.
Mm-hmm.
And the main thing was, I asked everyone that was in this meeting Saturday, said, look, if this person gets sick or experience what I experienced, and tomorrow changes, and he's not the same person that he was today, who's the heir apparent?
Yeah.
Who is he mentoring? Why is he still there? Someone graduated in 1987, and this person was just getting in the job. Why is he still there? 30 years. That's more than enough time in the job. Who's being prepared to mentor? Nobody. Black people have failed mentoring and getting the next generation together. For all the stuff we talk about 45, he's quietly got that courthouse stacked with a whole bunch of millennial judges that will be there for years that he's appointed.
Yeah.
You're not seeing this because everybody's worried about what he's doing on Twitter, and we talked about it on this show. The orangutan has been stacking the courthouse up, 2 Supreme Court justices, a hell of a host of circuit court judges, all of age, millennials.
Yeah,
and black people, we've not done anything.
And see, that's again, we spend so much, like you said, we spend so much time going crazy over him, but we go crazy over the wrong things. Because, like, I've said it a bunch of times. I'm at the point now where, is he declaring war? Okay, then I'm going to go back to what I'm doing, because the biggest thing that is the biggest deterrent with him being president is that, look, we already knew we already knew he was a racist. We already knew that he was, whatever. But see, what's even worse is that he is a 24-karat attention whore. And when he was doing what he was doing, being, a boil on the ass of life in New York, New Jersey, what have you, you didn't have to, you could ignore him in a sense. But now he is the president. So to a certain extent, you have to listen to some of what he says and what he does. And that plays right into it. I'll give you a perfect example, and it's another Kaepernick moment. 2 weeks ago, there's a news conference. And again, this is coming off of all the shootings. This is coming off of, the whole thing with his comments toward the 4 U.S. senators, or whatever you want to call them. And someone brought up Kaepernick in the press conference. Now think about that. There's shootings, there's all this other social strife and all this other stuff. So you bring up Kaepernick. And see, I can't blame the idiot for that. That's an agenda. That was an agenda by a media person who wants to stir up the flames, so to speak, because they knew what kind of reaction. They basically asked him, should Colin Kaepernick, get a job? Now, what does that have to do? And hear me out. How do you context all of that? How do you context all of what was going on that week as folks are, burying their children or what have you, and he's going after, and you're going to bring up Kaepernick. Now, of course, the Kaepernick issue is, but see, they didn't bring it up to be social. They brought it up to stir the shitstorm. Excuse my language.
Yeah.
Right.
And
that's okay.
They did not want to solve it. They knew if they brought it up in that context, it would get the kind of reaction they would want, and it would deflect from the stuff that we need to be focusing on instead of focusing on his tweets 4 a.m. when he's walking around in his drawers.
Yep, and another thing people don't want to talk about is that you got to remember, Kaepernick took on the most powerful person in the world, whether you want to admit it or not. When the white supremacists occupied the White House told those owners, you better not dare sign that nigger. You better not do it, because they knew there would be hell to pay. If you look at the Republican Party right now, how they are terrified of this white supremacist. I don't know if he got those sheep. Pictures of these guys with sheep, or they got pictures of their wives with black men, or what. But it's amazing how these guys are lockstep behind this white supremacist, and it's not broken. So when people hear about Kaepernick, and again, I say Stephen A. Smith has been the number one hit man. If you hear what he said, and I'm glad Ed Reed got into his ass and told him that he had a problem.
Stephen A. Smith is small potatoes. Plus, he's not the only guy that's out there doing it. He's got. So
it's a plethora, but unfortunately, he's spearheading it.
No, he's not. No, he's not. Until the fact that Jason Whitlock is still.
Is he alive? I ain't know he was around.
But no, I'm just saying, there's him and others. As long as they're still drawing breath, they will always have that, that other the alternate voice. But yeah, his whole thing has always been about distractions and deflections. It's you guys have seen the movie, the parody movie that the Wayans brothers made about Menace to Society. You remember the scene in the Chinese grocery store where they're having
when the white man's robbing them blind,
and the white guy is in there robbing them.
He was taking everything.
To me, that's the funniest but the most ironic scene in the movie because that's real. That's real. So much of a focus has been put on us, and so much of a focus has been put on such BS that he and his cronies are robbing us blind with other things. The fact that he went after 4 American congresswomen shows you where he's coming from. That the whole go back where you came from. I'm from here. Why don't you take your trick ass wife out of here who ain't from here? But see, that's the whole thing. We get so caught up in his bombast that we don't realize the real stuff that he's doing. Because see, again, we started this in regards to Kaepernick because see, they thought that this would be done in a sense with Kaepernick, and everything that they keep trying to do, whether it's pimping out Mr. Beyonce, whether it's buying off Malcolm Jenkins, whether it's blackballing him from they've done everything but sit down at the table with the man and say, how do we get this right? How do we get this right? But instead, like many white folks, they want to play the symbolism game and say, see, this, we're letting Jay-Z, because see, don't let Jay-Z get like 2% of the Toronto Bills or what have you, and everybody will be like, what a great day. What a great day. Great day, my ass.
You read my mind, T. You get on way. You read my mind. Hey, look at Venus and Serena Williams. They got interest in the Dolphins. You don't hear everybody jump up and down about that.
But see again, it's the quote unquote symbolism because see, unfortunately they thrive. The hard part of all of this is that it plays into the whole us against us again thing too. And I don't and look, I don't like it, but see, you have to call things and people out for what they truly are. I think we would do a disservice if we just kept silent. That's why we had to bring out the stuff that Obama didn't do over the years, because Obama, if there's
any emails coming today about that, LA?
I'm sure we'll get them and what have you. But guys, look, we know Obama got a lifetime pass from all of us, and we're all guilty of giving it to him scot-free. And even the ones that did somewhat call him out, they didn't, some of the ones that called him out were truly gentlemen, but unfortunately, a lot of them that were calling him out were upset because they didn't get a ticket to the party. And because I'll just come right out and say it. Where's Chavous and Dr. Westman with Trump in office? I mean, they make Marcel Marceau, look like Bobcat Goldthwait at this point in time right now.
Where's Waldorf? He said, "Where's Waldorf?" We don't say Waldorf. Where's Waldorf?
Even Waldo is saying, "Where the hell are those guys?"
listen, that vein of Chavous Silly, who's no longer on PBS. Cornell's up in Princeton, up in Harvard now, with his younger white lady, and that's his choice. No harm,
getting
no
that
foul.
paycheck and trim at the same time. Okay.
Yeah.
Getting that fro press.
No harm, no foul. Because so some of our best had some devious closed door experiences. As much as I love Marvin, if I can't tell you Marvin had a problem with some younger women. Yeah. So, but you hit a thing on the nose, Tay, about the symbolism, and I think we as Black people really don't understand the value of symbolism in the world. Like, we still view the world as a Western society, and that's not the world. It's not the world.
No.
It's and we're so non-traveled as people, and I'm not talking about going to the Caribbean. I'm not talking about going to Mexico. But we don't travel. We don't venture out. We don't do things, and so therefore we have no knowledge because we're complacent and we're ignorant, and we're relying upon Johnny White Guy to give us a story. A perfect example. My daughter just read The Outsiders. I read it with her. And so I made her, my son, and my nephew sit on the sofa last night and let's watch the movie. You read the book, now let's watch the movie. And the first thing my son was like, and they talk about Black people being bad. Like, all these dudes did was fight and smoke cigarettes, skip school, and everything else. I said, aha. I said, that's what I'm talking about. When we are the dominant majority in prison, but the minority as far as population, number 3 in this country, why is it that we dominate the prison system? Why? I said, we don't even commit the crimes because it's impossible for us to commit as many crimes as prisoners that we have because we're outnumbered.
Right.
We're outnumbered. So I said, do the math. I said, there it is. I said, so this is a spoof of a 1950s small town America, white folks fighting. I said, you hear the slur that they're saying to him, poor white trash, you greaser, and so forth and so on, and you soch. And I said that's how they view each other. But I said the problem is that the greasers who used to be down with us because they were poor as well, society's made them think that they're even better than we are. And that's the problem.
Of course.
That's the problem. And they looked at me like, whoa, all right, Daddy's preaching again. But I'm like, that's the problem.
One last